Hey guys, here I am. I'm going to do the second half of development, and I want to start with moral development. We did cognitive development last time. Now we'll do moral development. Then I'll talk about, I think, adolescence and adulthood. Okay, so it has this word development, like we're not born with a sense of morality. If I was in class, I would try to get a debate going on. Do you think you're born with a sense of right and wrong? Jean-Paul Sartre definitely is a little darker, and he says like, well, you look at a wolf, or you look at whatever vulture, the ravenous apes are mischievous, just like humans. We're dark, and so we have to develop morality to curb this kind of animal side of ourselves. We'll get into this in more detail later on. Okay, so moral dilemmas. This is how they usually pose people with these moral dilemmas to where it's like, ooh, I could do the wrong thing or the right thing. The most famous ones is from Lawrence Kohlberg here, if I can get my pen. So the Heinz dilemma. And basically Heinz right here has a wife and she's dying from cancer, and he doesn't have enough money to afford the drug, the treatment, and so he goes to all his friends and he tries to get enough money together, but he can't. So he goes to the doctor and he begs him, but the doctor says, I won't give you the drug. Now, what they ask people is, if you were in Heinz's position, what would you do? Now, most people, not everybody, but most people say they would steal the drug. Now, then he asks, why would you do it? Now, the rationale is important because part of the rationale has to do with how deep is. And so this is how he comes up with these three stages. I just say focus on this word conventional because then there's just pre and post, right? So for the test, conventional, if you do something in a conventional manner, it's in a normal or usual manner. Okay, so number one, pre-conventional. Please do not write these two things down. He has all this stuff here, but I'm just going to show on the next slide what I want you to remember about this stage. Okay, so pre-conventional, you can see I obey the rules to avoid punishment or receive rewards. Well, my dog has that kind of morality. He doesn't want to kennel up, but he does want a cookie, right? And so I believe a lot of our society is based on pre-conventional morality. Prison, for instance, I don't want to go there, avoid punishment. I just obey laws so that I don't have to get hurt. So I think this is all about your physical comfort, that either I get treats or I don't get punishments. I hope that makes sense. Second level is conventional. Conventional morality, like I said, is normal, but again, do not write these two things down. Conventional morality, you're trying to gain approval or avoid rejection. So I call that like social morality. It's like, oh, as long as people like me or they don't like shame or ghost me, then I'm going to do what everybody else is doing. Well, that's what happened in Nazi Germany. And so here I'm just fitting in so that I don't get hurt by the crowd, not physically hurt, but socially hurt. I don't know if you had to read the Scarlet Letter in high school. I do like the Scarlet Letter. Hester Prynne, who you see right here, she committed adultery, and of course they put it on the woman, not the man. She has to wear a big A on her dress, and that symbolizes adultery, so she gets slut-shamed in the society. They don't physically hurt her, but socially she's ghosted and shamed, and people won't hang out with her, and so it's an early form of, slut-shaming. And if you think about current movies like Easy A, or I could even get into like Carrie, the remake of Stephen King's movie, where Chloe Grace Moretz is in the movie and they shame her in the shower scene, but they're able to cyber shame her. So this is social shame. Now, Martin Luther King, one of my all-time heroes, especially when it comes to morality, it says it's not the bad people we'll remember about this period, the 60s. It's the good people and how they were real silent because they didn't want to get hurt or shamed for helping out black people. Okay, so the third level, post-conventional, like I said, don't write down all this junk right here. What I want you to remember, though, is like sometimes I obey the rules because they're good for most of the people. Not for me, but most of the people, like affirmative action. That's not good for me being a white dude, but I'm for it. Why? Because it puts women and people of color into positions of authority where white men have been represented for years and years and years, right? So that doesn't work out good for me, but I believe in it. Now, stage 6, you follow your own set of moral guidelines. These are my heroes, like the Saints or even Martin Luther King. You do the right thing and actually bad things happen to you. You're not preserving self on a physical level or a social level. You're actually risking yourself to do the right thing. This level is about doing the right thing. So first level, to recap, pre-conventional is all about, saving myself, physical safety. Second level, social safety. Third level is not about safety. It's about doing the right thing. So I'm going to show a video from Martin Luther King where he talks about the power and the responsibility, really, of doing the right thing in life.
Deep down in our nonviolent creed is the conviction that there are some things so dear, some things so precious, some things so eternally true that they're worth dying for. And if a man happens to be 36 years old, as I happen to be, and some great truth stands before the door of his life, some great opportunity to stand up for that which is right, he's afraid his home will get bombed, or he's afraid that he will lose his job, or he's afraid that he will get shot or beat down by state troopers. He may go on and live until he's 80, but he's just as dead as 36 as he would be at 80, and the cessation of breathing in his life is merely the belated announcement of an earlier death of the spirit. He died. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand for that which is true. So we're going to stand up right here amid horses. We're going to stand up right here in Alabama amid the billy clubs. We're going to stand up right here in Alabama amid police dogs if they have them. We're going to stand up amid tear gas. We're going to stand up amid anything that they can muster up, letting the world know that we are determined to be free.
I don't know if you like that video as much as I do, but I love that video. This is another quote from him. He talks about really the first two levels, cowardice. Oh, I don't have my pen on, of course. Cowardice, is it safe? Expediency and vanity, is it political or popular? So that's social. But conscious, is it right? That's the third one, right? And there comes a time, he says, when you're not going to be able to be safe, political, or popular. And you have to do the right thing. I call it the lonely road. I don't know about you, but a lot of times you have to walk this lonely road when you do the right thing because everybody else, it's easy to do the wrong thing. Joel Osteen says this, you know that I like Joel Osteen. Sometimes you face difficulties not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something right. Also have this quote on here. Sorry, got cut off. Do you know that the harder thing to do and the right thing to do are usually the same thing? Michael Caine in The Weatherman. It's like, dang. But a lot of times, I just always have to do the right thing. It's not that I'm perfect, but when I do the wrong thing, then I have to live with myself. Okay, so this is the very last section. The first two sections had to do with children because it has to do with their development, their cognitive development we talked about with Piaget, then their moral development, their sense of right and wrong. Now we hit adolescence and adulthood. Now we put all that stuff into motion. Now, in adolescence, it's full of paradox because you're kind of independent. You can go to places, but you have to be home at a certain time because you're still beholden to your parents. And so Erik Erikson talks about these different cycle ages. You don't have to remember this, but in different age ranges, like I usually focus on this one in my intro class. When you get the trust broken, the cupboard, this is when you get too needy and things like that. But we're talking about adolescence, and I have this highlighted where you develop your sense of self. Now you're kind of finding out what do I like? Who am I? Not what my parents tell me. And when you do this, you start to leave the house, and as you start to leave the house and go into the world, you might encounter people with different beliefs that might challenge your belief system, and so this results in a little dissonance, maybe. Now, this dissonance or doubt, most of the time people see as a bad thing. You're not supposed to doubt, don't question, don't ask why. That's the kind of religion I grew up in. But really, Frederick Buechner, if I'm saying his name right, says that doubt is the ants in the pants of faith. I always thought doubt was a bad thing, but he's saying no, doubt is a good thing. Like one of my favorite people, Mother Teresa, and she could be a grouchy bee, but she doubted a lot. When they found her diaries after she, if you can look at the silence and the emptiness is so great. I'm just going through the motions is basically what she's saying. My tongue moves but does not speak. Now, Coolin and Arnold back in 1944, they asked kids, do you believe in this? I know there is a God. And at age 12 versus age 18, you can see this huge drop off. All of a sudden, people are becoming more atheistic as they get older. Also, they don't believe the Bible is 100% true, but I would argue this is kind of like, well, maybe if you're an abstract thinker. Father Andre always says the Bible is a book of faith and not facts. We don't have to argue if there's a big fish or not. Let's just get into, what does it mean, the moral of the story. Now, Tamminen, I don't know if you remember, Tamminen was the person that did the Santa Claus study, and he asked 938, so that's a good sample size. Finnish kids, grades 3 through 9, but really that's a different kind of age range. What is your opinion about God's existence? Now, I think there's something in translation here. He exists and takes care of us, exists and doesn't take care of us. Okay, that's agnostic. That's atheist. I don't know what this one is. I have no idea. It does hardly exist. But if you look at the graph, you can kind of see it consistently goes down. Here's a little blip. I don't know. Maybe that's sample size or something. But people get more atheistic as they get older. Now, these are 3 possible reactions to religion in adolescence. I want you to remember for the test. Number 1 is you just blindly adhere. I see a lot of people, I just believe because I believe. It's like, well, you ever think about it? It's like, no, I'm just a sheeple. I just believe because I believe. A lot of people are in this category, which to me is just equally silly, but, oh, religion is bullshit. Well, that's easy. Do you know why you're atheist? You know what I mean? Do you have a good argument for being an atheist? And number 3 is the one that they focus on. Grapple with that and come to your own conclusion. Doesn't mean you have to be a Christian. You could be a Wiccan. You could be like, Muslim. You could be Hindu. But just come to your own conclusion based on your own personal relationship with this thing that we call God, Brahman, all the doubt. Okay, so doubt. I have one more study. I'm not expecting you to remember all these names, but I'm just trying to throw out some research just a little bit. It says that doubt right here can actually lead to more complex thinking or mature orientation. That would be like Gordon Allport that we talked about on one of the previous lectures. You get this more mature orientation to religion. It's not superficial, shallow. You're not just going to church to meet people or go to lunch. That really you're digging into the word and the scripture and coming to your own understanding. Last little thing, I forgot I had the Grim Reaper on here. Love the Grim Reaper. If you think about what we've talked about so far, it's like little kids believe in God, and then all of a sudden, so do old people. If I can make this do right. Okay, now I did it right. So it's right here in the middle that everybody becomes an atheist. Because if you ask little kids, it's like, oh yeah, there's a God. And you ask old people, it's like, yeah, there's a God. And like maybe for old people, the doubt creeps in again. And go, uh-oh, I'm going to die. I'm going to croak. I better get me some insurance over here. So I better jump on the religious bandwagon because they have all these studies I'm not showing about how much do you watch and listen to religious TV and programming and material, stuff like this. And people that are older listen to a lot more religious TV than people that are younger. These people up here, the older people, and maybe that's because now they know the end is near. They have this big thing like Freud was saying. It's like, oh no, you're going to die for sure. It's like, so now you come back to God because God serves one of those things that Freud was talking about. It's like, oh yeah, he's Big Daddy in the sky. Okay, I hope I did a good job on this lecture. That's enough of me yammering on. If you have any questions, please give me a call or give me an email. I'll talk to you next time.